Once again, it's on. Y'all know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome, everyone, to episode 101 of Toss, the Tristain Sports Show, a special edition NFL playoff edition of Toss. It is your main man, T Squared, Tristain Thomas, and let's get right into this thing. First of all, it's been a while. We had to take that little breather there. Glad to be back with y'all. Glad to be back in time for the NFL postseason. Super Wildcard weekend. Looking forward to this. It is the time of the... First of all, this season has gone by incredibly quick. I really cannot believe how fast this season went. And it was the longest regular season in the history of the game. You're talking 18 weeks, 17 games. And it's the regular season's all over now. Now we're truly on that road to the Super Bowl. Now those roads will have to be run through the number one seeds in the AFC. It will be the Tennessee Titans. Congratulations to them. They secured the number one seed, home field advantage. And in the NFC, for the second straight year and the fourth time in franchise history, and that's a long time, y'all. It's well over 100 years. The Green Bay Packers are the number one seed in the NFC. Home field advantage, first round bye. We will see both them and the Tennessee Titans next week in the divisional round, which is one of my favorite rounds of the NFL postseason because the big boys get involved. So they'll have this off week. We'll talk about them more on next week's episode of Toss before those round of games get started. Right now, let's get into the AFC Wildcard matchups because there are some really good matchups, some really, really good games here. We have the 2 seed Kansas City Chiefs, the defending AFC champion, up against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh finding themselves alive after their win, waiting for Oakland. Wow, I said Oakland. I promised I wasn't going to do that, but I did anyway. Finding the Las Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers going at it. If both of those teams tied in their final regular season game against each other, they will both make the playoffs. The Steelers will be out. They needed somebody to win that ball game. It went to overtime, so they sweated it out, but they found themselves in that ball game, in the playoffs, as a result of Las Vegas' win over the Chargers. Chargers out, Las Vegas in, Pittsburgh in. But they have a really tough task going up against Kansas City. I mean, it's no secret. Ben has not been Ben. More than likely, this will probably be his final season. He's pretty much said as much. He's just not the Ben Roethlisberger that we've come to know and watch all these years. Don't quite want to go and say he's a shell of himself, but he's definitely not on par to what we've been witnessing. Mike Tomlin, and I said this before on a quick toss when they faced the Green Bay Packers, I said, hey, eventually Tomlin will right that ship and get those guys playing hard, and they'll start winning some games. But it just wouldn't be that week against Green Bay. And I was correct. Green Bay won that game against the Steelers. They've gone through injury. They've gone through COVID issues, as the entire league has, including the Packers. But he righted that ship. He got them playing some really good football. Kept their heads in it. Kept them believing. And they kept winning. They kept handling the business they needed to handle to give themselves an opportunity to make postseason. They won their final regular season game. Improbably, they won their final regular season game to give themselves a chance. Obviously, it was in somebody else's hands. We already discussed that, but they got in. Tomlin righted that ship. But you're going up against an offense in Kansas City who, in my eyes, and what I've watched all season, a kind of bored Patrick Mahomes. And I say bored because he is a guy who wants to throw the ball deep. If he could throw the ball deep on every play, I think he would definitely take that shot. Tyreek Hill down there somewhere. Travis Kelce is down there somewhere. McCole Hardman is down there somewhere. He's going to find somebody. Teams have been playing them with a shell, too deep shell, to keep everything in front of them, underneath. And for a guy with the type of arm and for a guy with an exciting game, such as Patrick Mahomes has, that's boring for him. And you saw the offense struggle because of that. He did not want to take what the defense was giving him. He did not want to throw everything underneath. Eventually, they started making some adjustments with that. Eventually, he started changing his mentality. Okay, if they're going to give me all the stuff underneath, all right, we'll jab them underneath, and then we'll take the shot down the field. And we're going to connect because that's just what we do. That's who we are. The defense started to come alive under Steve Spagnuolo. They started playing some pretty good ball. Obviously, Arrowhead, huge home field advantage for them. I say Kansas City gets that game. No upset there. I think the Pittsburgh will make it a little bit closer than what most of us will think. It is the playoffs after all. Guys are going to leave it out there on the field. They may make it a little bit more tough than what we think, but in the end, I think Kansas City gets that game. I think there's no doubt about it. Let's move on to the 3 versus 6 matchup. The 3 seed, Buffalo Bills. The 6 seed, New England Patriots. Now, you know what happens when you get a divisional battle in the playoffs. Like you just don't know. It could go either way because these teams play each other twice a year. You know each other. There are no surprises coming from each other. Typically in the playoffs, you're really leery of a Bill Belichick coach team being in the playoffs. It is really a scary thought. Especially when they had Tom Brady, it just was a dynamic that worked. He's going to devise something, a scheme defensively that's just going to help, just do just enough to get them through to the next round. They win games the way they need to be won. They don't come in with just one game plan. They make adjustments for your adjustments for your adjustments. Buffalo has been a little bit up and down over the weeks. I know Josh Allen, their quarterback, has been a little bit banged up. The defense has taken some hits. But they held it together enough to win the division. AFC East champs. And you're going up against a divisional foe. Again, no secrets between the both of you. I go Buffalo in this game. It's not because the elements, because it's going to be really harsh elements. Game time temperatures are going to be 0. Wind chill is going to be way below that. It's definitely not going to be for the faint at heart. New England will try to make this game ugly, and the thing that they will do, I think they will run the football a little bit more, because in the playoffs since 2010, rookie quarterbacks are 0-6. 0-6 since 2010. Rookie quarterbacks are in the playoffs. Mac Jones is a rookie. That does not bode well for New England. And I know it's Bill Belichick. I know it's a Bill Belichick coach team. He may come up with some adjustments for your adjustments, but in the end, that stat, those elements, that home field advantage for the Bills, I think they get out of there. I think they get out of there with a close victory. The Bills move on. Let's go to the final matchup in the AFC. The 4 versus 5. You have the 4 seed, AFC North champions Cincinnati Bengals against the 5 seed Las Vegas Raiders. We already documented how they got in, beating the Los Angeles Chargers on Sunday Night Football, the last regular season game of the season. Overtime victory. And all the turmoil that they've gone through, both on the field and off the field. You really have to commend the job that's been done coaching those guys. The way that those guys stayed together, continued to play with each other, for each other. They held it together and they broke through and got back to the playoffs. This will be Carr's first trip to the playoffs, because if you remember when they made it a few years back, he was injured. He was not able to play in their wild card game. He's healthy. He'll be able to play in this year's playoffs. So a lot of new experience for everyone. Josh Jacobs going to the playoffs. Hunter Renfrow going to the playoffs. I mean, a lot of guys there who have not had this type of playoff experience before. On the other side of the coin with the Bengals, AFC North champions, you got a lot of guys who have never been to the playoffs before, including Joe Burrow, including Joe Mixon, including Jamar Chase. Those guys on offense and defense. It is a new experience for everyone involved. Who's going to knock those jitters off? Who's going to calm their nerves first? That's going to be key in this game. Obviously, this game being played in Cincinnati. Again, good home field advantage. I say the Bengals get out of there with that game. But it will be close. If the Raiders could find some way to put pressure on Burrow, get home a few times, knock him off his square a little bit, make it feel a little bit uncomfortable, I would not be surprised if they escape Cincinnati with that victory. But the way that their offense is playing, the way that Burrow and Chase, obviously that LSU connection, are just locked in sync. The way that Joe Mixon can run the football, catch the football. He's going to be a big factor. I feel that they have a little bit more offensively than do the Raiders, and they'll be able to win that game. So my picks in the AFC, I've got Kansas City over Pittsburgh. I have Buffalo over New England. And I have Cincinnati over Las Vegas. All the home teams I have winning. Watch me be wrong on at least one of those. I would not be surprised. Let's move on to the NFC Wildcard matchups. Start off with the 2-7 matchup. You have the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 2, going up against the hard-nosed Eagles at the 7. Eagles making the playoffs as a result of Green Bay handling their business in their victory. Week 17. You're welcome. But I digress. This one, look, it's the defending champions. It's Tom Brady. It's a team that is somewhat getting healthy. Yes, I know offensively they will not have Chris Godwin, who's out for the year. But they're getting playoff Lenny back. Leonard Fournette. Mike Evans, a little bit dinged, but he'll be there. Tom Brady is still there. Defensively, you're getting David back. Vita Vea is healthy for the full playoff run. Just signed a fat new contract, so he's going to be amped. I know the Eagles are scrappy. Jalen Hurts, his first trip to the playoffs. They'll give it their all, but I just do not see the Eagles having enough to beat the defending champions, especially in Tampa. Again, another great home field advantage. I just don't see it. So I've got Tampa Bay winning that ball game. if they can make it. And again, folks, it's the playoffs. We can sit here and look at, okay, all right, lopsided stats or whatever from the regular season. It's not a regular season anymore. It's postseason. This could either be a very close game. The Eagles can make this very ugly for Tampa Bay, or they could get absolutely dog walked by Tampa. But either way, I've got Tampa Bay coming out with that victory. Let's go to the 3-6 matchup, which is really intriguing. The 3 seed Dallas Cowboys. The 6 seed San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco making the playoffs, their final game of the regular season against the Rams in overtime. We'll get to the Rams in a little bit. They definitely knuckled up, handled their business, got into the tournament, and that's what you want to do. Just need to get in. After that, anything can happen. The way they've been playing defensively, especially the way they did it against the Rams, and for some reason they just ruin Sean McVay's plans every single time. I believe that loss by the Rams, Week 18 to the 49ers, was the first time that a Sean McVay coached team lost the ball game after leading at the half. I believe it's 45-1 now, that one being San Francisco. They just find a way to ruin McVay's plans every single time. And again, it's a divisional game, a lot on the line. They do it. But I don't see any reason why they can't replicate what they did against the Los Angeles Rams versus the Dallas Cowboys. You talk about two vaunted offenses. Now, I would say at this point, Dak Prescott, a little bit better of a decision maker than is Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford's been struggling with the turnovers, especially in the second half of the season. But they got all world receivers too. They've got a good running game too. San Francisco will deploy Deebo Samuel, who's an offensive weapon. Not only can he catch it and be a game breaker that way, but he can run it. It's no longer a wrinkle in their offense. It is a huge part of their offense. Elijah Mitchell running the football very well. Hopefully that knee stays healthy. Kid's dynamic. Big problem is Jimmy G is not 100%. So they're going to have to rely on that running game a lot. But if that defense doesn't show up for the Niners, and we know Dallas can put up points in a hurry, you're going to be forced to throw the football. And I don't know if that thumb will be able to hold up, that thumb of Jimmy G will be able to hold up in a game like that. I just don't foresee that happening. So the defense has to come out. They have to be physical. They have to be aggressive. They have to keep the game close. The running game has to be on point for San Francisco. But if you're Dallas, you want to get so far ahead of them to where they have to put the ball in Jimmy Garoppolo's hands. And you know his hand is not 100%. But if they can replicate what they did against the Rams just last week, I think they can get out of Dallas with that victory. I really think they can do it. And it's with that thought process, especially after seeing many years of Mike McCarthy in the playoffs. It is with that thought process that I am picking San Francisco to win that ball game. Sorry, Donnie, my boy Donnie, Cowboys fan. If Dallas cannot get ahead of the 49ers, and the 49ers could play clock control offense, really you have to play smash mouth football. Defensively, you got to get after it, and you got to run that football down their throats. And that is something that they can do. The only way the Cowboys are winning this ball game is if they get so far ahead of the Niners that the Niners have to rely on Jimmy Garoppolo and an injured thumb to try to throw them back into the game, and I just don't foresee that happening. I think they'll muddy it up. The Niners will. They'll be physical. They'll run the football down their throat. They'll cash in on scoring opportunities, whether it be Brandon Ayuk, whether it be Deebo Samuel, whether it be Elijah Mitchell, whether it be George Kittle. They'll be able to cash in and escape Dallas with that win. That's probably the biggest upset of the weekend coming right there. Let's move on to the final matchup of Super Wildcard weekend. And let me just get on my soapbox for a second here. Why are they making this 3 days? I don't see a need for a 3-day Super Wildcard weekend. No, just do it the 2 days that you normally did it. Give me 3 games Saturday. Give me 3 games Sunday. I'm good with that. I don't need that extra Monday night game. Don't need it. I got NBA to watch. It's Martin Luther King Day. But I digress. Let's get to that final matchup in the NFC. You know, I just had to put that out there. I don't like it, but, you know, I don't have any control over it. I'm going to watch it anyway. Just so y'all know what's going on. So for the 4 seed, Los Angeles Rams against the 5 seed Arizona Cardinals. And, man, you talk about 2 teams that were flat-out heavyweights to start this season, kind of backing into the playoffs, especially the Cardinals. Cardinals had never been the same since their loss to the Green Bay Packers, with Rasul Douglas intercepting Kyler Murray in the end zone to seal the game. They have not been the same since that. You remember, that's the game that Kyler Murray ended up injuring his ankle. He was out for about a month, a little over a month. That's where DeAndre Hopkins re-aggravated his injury. He was out for a few weeks after that. Eventually had to go and get surgery. They just really weren't the same after that, and they really backed into the playoffs. The Rams, we spoke about it a little bit. Matthew Stafford struggling with turnovers. Offensively, they do get Cam Akers back, who we all thought was going to be gone for the entire year with the torn Achilles. Well, he's going to be back. We don't know how much of a load he'll be able to take, but if he can add a little bit of anything, you're talking about lightning. He's a game breaker. If he isn't able to get you much, Sony Michel is still there. He's been running the football pretty well. You already know about their defense, Aaron Donald and all that crew. Yes, they lost their safety, but they end up signing a unretiring Eric Weddle, who will bring a wealth of experience and a rested body. We'll see what he'll be able to give. But again, it's a divisional battle in the playoffs. Those are always tough to predict. They're already tough to predict in the regular season, much less the postseason when you have a one-and-done mentality. You lose this, there is no week 19, week 20. Go get them next time. No, your season is done. Season's done. I have to go with the team that I feel is playing better than the other one, given what we've seen in the second half of the season. Yes, I know the postseason is a brand new season, but we only have what we've seen. And what I've seen is that the Rams defense is a bit better. Their offensive weaponry is a bit better. Because, again, the Cardinals without Nuke, they just haven't been the same offensively. Kyler Murray is dynamic. But the Rams got a few more weapons. Yeah, they don't have Robert Woods, and I understand that, but they got Van Jefferson. They got Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown winner. Again, Sony Michel, Cam Akers is back. Tyler Higbee had a pretty nice game a couple games ago. I think the Rams pull out with that victory, not because of home field advantage, because let's be realistic. There's usually more visiting team fans than there are Los Angeles fans there. That's for the Chargers or the Rams at SoFi. Spend all those billions of dollars for everybody else to come in and fill most of the stadium up. So let's go over those picks again. In the NFC, I am picking Tampa over Philadelphia. I am picking San Francisco over Dallas. And I am picking the Rams over the Arizona Cardinals. Again, in the AFC, I'm going with Kansas City over Pittsburgh. And I'm going Buffalo over New England. And the Bengals over Las Vegas. Would not be surprised if Las Vegas comes out with that victory, but I am picking the Bengals just because I like their offense just a tad bit more. Either way, enjoy the ball games. This is postseason. We don't have very many football weekends left. Enjoy it. Enjoy the journey. I think we're in store for some really good football, some memorable games. Enjoy it. Again, the heavyweights, Green Bay and Tennessee, get involved next week in the divisional round. Can't wait for that. But let's get through Super Wildcard weekend first. And that's all I got. That's it for me. This is T Squared, Tristain Thomas, reminding all of you to keep it moving forward. Always forward. Forward always. Enjoy the football games until next week. So long from Toss.